This is 55 TV. We're with JR. What a great show. You must be really proud of yourself. It's come to the end and you're going to start a new body of work after this. Tell me the process of your original ideas and what you're doing.
Process of the work on this project, which is Wrinkles of the City, is a project about all people with wrinkles linked to cities in constant movement. So it's a project linked with faces and architecture. And we've done it in Shanghai, where they're, turning down all the old buildings and building up some big towers. We've done it in Cartagena in South Spain, and we've done it also in Los Angeles, where the notion of image and the way of working with really large scale means something really different for the people, especially when they're anonymous, when they're old, and when it's black and white.
Sure. Do you kind of bond a small, intimate relationship with these people before you've shot, or is it something that's quite quick?
No, actually, it depends how I met them. And on this project, it was pretty interesting to see how to find old people depending on the size society where you do the project. For example, in China, you don't have elderly people house, so you actually find them in the parks or into families. In Los Angeles, it was hard to find even wrinkles because people hide them. Where are the wrinkles in Los Angeles? And in South Spain, I found most of them in elderly house and in the streets and meeting people. So it's really interesting process, much slower process. And the notion for them of images is about telling their story much more than seeing their image in big.
Sure. If there was one particular environment that you had a really sense of emotion with, where would it have been in the countries that you've shot? And the people that you've shot, not even the country, the people that you've shot.
On this particular project, it was just interesting to see that you cannot create a way of walking. You have to be reinvented at each places where you go. And that was pretty interesting, especially for them and the notion of seeing themselves in that big. Most of them were not always interested in going and see their photo in the street.
I'm sure.
Because what they wanted is to leave a mark on society by letting their story travel into books, and so that it goes to the next generation. And which is really interesting when I work on other project with much younger crowd, having their photo in huge was like of an accomplishment. So working on that type of that notion of images was for me an interesting part of this project.
When you first had this idea, going back as far as you can remember, what was your first idea to blow these characters up large? What made you want to do that?
I was doing graffiti at the time, and I started pasting really small photos, and I was framing them with paint. And that at the time was just because I couldn't print bigger. But when I find a way of printing bigger, all I did was adapting to architecture. And if you see in that show, most of the photos, especially in Shanghai, they're not the biggest ever. They just adapt to the size of the building where I'm working on. And that's really the idea, is not to try to do the biggest, but it's try to adapt at the scale of the city, at the scale, of the context where you've put it.
Sure. What is your next project you're coming up with? Is it going to be totally different, or are you working with the same format?
No, right now I'm in the middle of a big project. It's named Inside Out, where everyone can participate. And I wanted to just start a participative art project where, anyone could send me their photo. I would print it for them and send it back, but they would do the action. They would do the photo, the pasting, the everything, so that they kind of reappropriate the art for themselves and do whatever they want with it. And that's pretty interesting because, depending on the parts of the world where people participate, they don't use the poster in the same way. In Tunisia, they replaced all the portraits of the dictator by their own photos. Recently at the border of Mexico and US, they covered the entire borders with thousands of portraits. It gathers people together. It brings them to do an action. And I just figured I couldn't go to all the places around the world, so I had to kind of reverse process and invite people to do it.
Sure. It's great to see you. Love the exhibition. We'll catch you soon. 55 TV.